Oh, it said a while ago, this meeting is being. What are you trying to do? I was doing all that.
She already did. He just thinks he's the host.
It's because you were sharing already. We lost Jonathan.
I mean, yeah. Yeah.
I don't know how much time we're gonna have next Tuesday to delve into that. So if we can talk a little bit about it, I've got some concerns.
Are we allowed to do that tonight?
Well, it's a public meeting, isn't it?
I know it's a public meeting, but I'm not sure if it was.
Well, I think being a public meeting, I think we have to post the agenda of the items that we're going to discuss.
Oh.
24 hours,
Let me tell you about,
48 hours in advance of us discussing it. So since it's not on there, I don't know that we're allowed. Sorry,
Kind of doesn't make, I think it's the rules, but I don't think it makes sense. Sorry.
not arguing the purpose here. I just, yeah, I don't know that we're, I don't know. that we're allowed.
All right, you want me to just jump right in?
Sure.
Okay, so glad to be back and lots happened since then, as you know. What I'm gonna do is just a quick synopsis on some of the demographic information that I have for you. I sent you some previous to the meeting, but if you look at the screen, you'll see just a graphical representation of what we have. That screen is different than what I'm sharing.
It's like you click.
No. There's a screen on, there it is. There was a screen on top. And Shante, you can minimize the Zoom screen on the upper left, click the one bar. There you go. Beautiful. And you can drag that up a little too if you want, or down. Okay. So I was unable to share the graphics with you, and I just wanted to show you those. And it gave us a pretty interesting and fairly,
Yeah,
you did?
I think that came in the emails that you sent us.
It wasn't showing in the email that I
The
sent.
demographics email you.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Tables, but not.
Looked at this. I looked at the percentages.
Okay. Okay, then that's wonderful. I won't have to,
Morning, Monday morning?
I won't have to spend as much time in it then. So we didn't get a lot on the younger cohort, but that kind of makes sense given that homeowners typically aren't as young. And even on the rental side, you wouldn't necessarily expect that given costs and whatnot, but beyond those age groups. Anyhow, I'm not gonna comment beyond that. Here,
Yeah, but you're gonna be at the top.
at the top.
You're gonna be in the top age group.
here's your male, female split. So 52% women and 45% men. And the rest are either prefer not to self-describe or non-binary. And then this is your breakdown on the makeup of the household. So 51% of the households had children. So and then what you can, if you take that away from the romantic partner one, you could extrapolate and say that you had 22% couples. Okay, and then a combination of the others. So and the none of the above we're presuming are people who are living alone. Okay, so again, I think a good representation of what you have here in the village.
Not that it probably matters a whole lot, but I'm gonna guess there were some people who. I'm gonna guess there were some people who responded who don't actually live in the village as well, and that may throw things off. Because owners of properties could have responded to this as well, who don't live in the village.
Okay,
And there are people that own like more than one property. I know someone who owns 5, I think, and. so,
They
yeah.
live in one and they-
so I want you to see what I'm doing now. I'm going to Google and I'm typing in survey calculator. And a number of different, SurveyMonkey has one. There are a number of different survey calculators. They all come up with the exact same result that I'm going to show you. If I open up a survey calculator and I presume a margin of error of 5%, which I'll put in, and a confidence level of 95%. And these are standard confidence levels and margin of errors for the statistical industry. And then I go with a population here. I'm going to go on the high end so that of 3,300. My sample size should be 345. So that's the sweet spot statistically on where we wanted to get to, and we exceeded that. So we collected a total of 366, but as I mentioned in the email, there were some duplicates. So we're at 364, but still, I wanted you to see this. And another statistical gold standard is getting at least 10% of your population, which would have been 330. So again, we've had, hello there, Vice Mayor. We feel really good about the amount of data, the amount of input that we collected on your behalf. So
That's 6. Yeah. That's huge.
Pretty cool.
Just that 20 doesn't sound like a whole lot, it's a huge percentage of
Yeah.
So that's really.
Hi, good evening.
So Vice Mayor, the only thing that you miss is I was talking about statistical sample size and how we exceeded what would be the gold standard. And I showed the graphics for the demographics, which apparently some or all of you received. It didn't show on my computer when I sent it out, so I didn't know that you received it. So so you haven't missed much of anything. All right. So then let's the first thing I wanted to talk about tonight, let me close this. All right, is to go to our mission, vision, and values. So on screen now are the updated, most recent vision, mission, and then on the second page, the organizational values. I sent those out to you. And I wanted to hear additional feedback from you and work towards finalizing these. And I will tell you, by the way, and I can get validation here from some of your colleagues that attended some of the public meetings, is that I brought this up at the public meetings. Not a single person raised their hand to make a single comment on the vision, mission, or values. I had them on the wall. I actually gave people time to get up and go look at them. All right. So it wasn't something that was rushed by any means. And then I said, does anyone have comments on these? And, you know, crickets. So
I don't think they
people were a lot more
necessarily
focused.
understood what they were looking at. Just
People were really,
Like when they see it in a marketing.
Yeah.
yeah, but people,
format, then it will start to connect.
and that's,
But
I'm
the
not.
input
not
was lacking.
criticizing.
Yeah,
I think people were just more focused on giving us the long,
their list.
their list.
okay, and
Yeah.
hopefully they were comfortable with what we had up here. But we did at least try and solicit input on it. All right, so let's start with the vision statement. Any additional thoughts?
One word, just, first of all, let me just say that I'm completely happy with these and I'm ready to say yes to both of these. One word in the mission statement, I would like the word diversity included in there before the word residents. Where is it? To improve quality of life while balancing the interests of our diverse residents. I just like diversity being included in there again. I like it in both of them. I just think it's very important to us as a community.
He's in mission.
Statement, I'm
statement.
sorry, yeah.
Okay, so let's, Commissioner, if you don't mind, I
Is
want,
that what, it's the only word that I would ask for us to
Right.
consider.
I'll throw that in on the, so what I'm hearing is you don't have any comments on the vision statement.
I like it. I like everything I'm seeing up on the screen. I would prefer that one word added. If the one word's
Okay.
not added, I'll go to.
I added it. We're doing this in real time so you can see what I'm doing. All right,
Two different purposes, these two things, and when we're working on what our mission is, I think it's worthwhile having it in there as well. I think it's a strength of our community. I think it's a strength of, like, you know, America talks about it, diversity as its strength, and I think it is here as well, and I like having it there. Just to remind us that we have a broad range of constituents.
focusing on vision. And does anyone have any thoughts or comments on the vision statement? I'm going to go around the room just to make sure. Commissioner,
It's-
Mayor? I'm sorry, Commissioner,
Yes,
you're good.
loving it.
Mayor?
Hard on it.
Okay, Vice Mayor, Commissioner. Okay, great. The mission statement. Commissioner Kennedy gave us the one word. Commissioner Oliveira,
I'm a thumbs up.
okay, Mayor?
Then good with the addition?
On the, I'm fine with the addition of diverse, always really. And then the mission statement, I feel like is meaty and kind of says everything that we wanted it to say. I don't have any further edits.
Excuse me. I'm comfortable with the addition.
Okay, Vice Mayor? Here, let me highlight it, Vice Mayor, right here.
We'll fall over.
You see what I highlighted? Are you on the Zoom meeting?
No.
Okay. If everyone would be, then we could all be looking at, or you can go sit over there with Commissioner Gonzalez, who's looking at the screen. It's your choice. Okay, Commissioner Gonzalez. Okay. Vice Mayor, you said, all right,
Yeah.
all right. Now let's move on to organizational values. As I indicated to you in communications, I reworked some of the language. Per your instructions, since we last met, I made it less wordy, but still tried to retain the essence of what these were. Thoughts, comments?
I like your acronym. That's nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, the acronym works. I think that was your idea, wasn't it? To try to come up with something? Yeah, that was really good. I like that. I have one comment about them overall, and then I'll have specific things if you want to go after them one at a time. Overall, I would like the words Biscayne Park mentioned in each one. I think, and there's an easy way to do it in each one of these. I did it when I worked on them. It's good to reinforce, otherwise they just sound very generic. It could be like anywhere. So I like having our name inside each one. For example,
The first one, we could say the Village of Biscayne Park fosters public trust, blah, blah, blah.
yeah, and it doesn't have to be the first noun of the first sentence of each one, but I think it's best that it probably isn't, so it kind of flows in a more natural way. But I think it's important to have our name in each one. So that's my overriding comment.
Okay, thoughts from your colleagues on that?
I don't think it's needed. I think at the end of the day, it talks about the village. I mean, that's the whole purpose of the document, and then it's a bit redundant. That's my opinion.
Certainly in the title, great, the Village of Biscayne Park's organizational values, and maybe I would need to see it in terms of the placement in different, I guess I worry if you place it in one word and you don't place it in the other.
So it's all or none, it's all or none.
Right,
Yeah,
it's like an all or none thing.
that's what I was saying.
So,
If these only accompany that title, maybe placing it in the title is a good solve to kind of have it.
as an overall.
But if I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing it in at least one of them just to see how.
Doesn't hurt to have our name in things, So if you're looking at one, you're talking about one, you're using one for a specific purpose, it's identified to us.
What about organizational values for the Village of Biscayne Park?
I think up there is good too, but I'm saying, I still think when you're reading one, when you read stewardship, Biscayne Park responsibly manages our human, physical, and financial resources. We refers to Biscayne Park. It just makes it very much more personal to us and makes it sound less like a generic value that you got online, It's ours. But I do think it should be in the name as well, in the title as well.
Yeah, I
All
think.
right, so I just put it in the title. I need some direction from you on whether or not it's included in each value. I've heard a yes, a no, and I'm thinking about it. So. Okay,
Just take us a moment to place it.
you're the happy mayor.
Do you want to try and just put it in to see how it reads? I mean, I don't think, I tend to agree with Commissioner Gonzalez that it's probably fine either way. If it becomes the Village of Biscayne Park does this, then maybe it becomes a little too much, but pop it in and,
No, it certainly should not be the beginning.
On
of the first
every-
sentence. It
yeah,
should
right.
be Sort of buried down in, like the first one, for example,
It fits there,
We put it there,
Yeah.
yeah. It's
but it
perfect.
doesn't fit in the second one. The Village of Biscayne Park communicates and treats all with dignity. I mean, it might work.
Then it
It
would-
might.
it would say, at Biscayne Park, we embrace ethnic and personal differences and promote inclusivity. There's a way to word it there as a parenthetical,
Yeah, I
but
know
it's
what you mean.
there. In Biscayne or at Biscayne Park. Doesn't that feel like it's ours more when you read it like that? We communicate and treat all with dignity, kindness, and fairness. At the Village of Biscayne Park, we embrace, we embrace ethnic and personal differences. I think it just sounds more personal. We lead by example at Biscayne Park, Alan, for the unrelenting quality.
Next one, where would you put it?
You could do it.
And all we do, the village of Biscayne Park lives in harmony with nature.
Yeah, there you go. I
That's
like
where
that.
it
We
is.
try to be sustainable, resilient in all we do at the village of Biscayne Park and live in harmony. Yeah, I like it there. It's kind of dropped in the middle.
I like it. All we
You
do
could drop
all-
these in and then we could go on with the rest of this and look at it for a minute.
The last one, where would you put it?
The village of Biscayne Park stands behind our word and our work.
There you go.
Right? We put it kind of at the end on every other one almost. On the last three, we put it at the very end. So
We
I
just
don't-
kind of stick them there and we could live with it while we do the rest of them and then we could go back and tweak that.
Okay, so now it's in all of them.
Under stewardship, want to try something a little different? It's not, you can't, those are two sentences that you can't string together with a comma. Anyway, so we could say, we try to be sustainable and resilient in all we do at the village of Biscayne Park, comma, where we live in harmony with nature. All we do at the, there you go. Biscayne Park, comma, where we, well, lowercase w,
Right, I got it.
yeah, take the S off lives. Why don't we just kind of live with that and go through these other things and then we can go back and take them out if you want to, but we can think about the content now.
Vice Mayor, I'm gonna go around. Anything in any of these you wanna? Okay,
Great. I really like the wording we came up with. Again, I don't think it's a bit redundant, my taste to have Village of Biscayne Park on all of them, but I think, the wording and the objective of each is clear, so I'm comfortable with them. Yeah.
Mayor?
I feel the same way. I don't mind the addition and I don't think it makes it, that my concern was just making it a little too heavy-handed, a little too wordy. I don't think it really does. So I think it's fine.
Okay. Commissioner Gonzalez? Commissioner Olivera? For the record, she says she's fine.
We heard you.
Maybe we can.
Move them around a little bit. Yeah.
All right, so probably,
Can be printed.
move that up a little, so it's not at the end. Okay, anything else? Mr. Manager, any thoughts, comments?
No, everything looks good.
Transparency. This is the one that kind of, something rings not quite right to me when I read that. Because transparency is about being open, we're a transparent government, right? And it says the Village of Biscayne Park fosters public trust by being authentic. Well, that's not transparent and honest. We value candor and constructive feedback. That's feedback. We believe that listening is learning. That's all great, but I don't see that transparency is reflected in there necessarily, because transparency is,
Just added open. By being open.
well, that hits that adds the right flavor up there. Yeah, that helps certainly. I had written a completely different sentence. It just was Biscayne Park is an open book to our residents. It's another sentence and you did it one word, but yeah, that helps a lot.
I mean, short of moving those other two sentences completely out of there. I'm not sure what else, by adding that, I think you're right, it does connect more to what that.
To the topic.
Is, right.
Yep. Because the other ones connect directly. They make sense. What follows the word makes, sense.
Right.
That helps.
Fixed it with one word.
Thank you, Mayor. All right. Other thoughts, comments?
Yeah, give me 1 second here. I like it. I think we kind of nailed it, guys.
For sure. It's really nice.
It feels, yeah, right. It kind of, everything's pulled in there and it feels, it doesn't feel canned to me. If some of the language were a little more casual somehow and a little more huggy, villagey, that would make me personally happy, but I'm not going to push for that.
Well, is there any particular word that strikes you as being antithetical?
Not that anything
that-
up there is antithetical to it, is just that other things would just make it a little huggier and more Biscayne Park and less sort of big city corporate feel. I mean, nothing up there is nothing's inappropriate and nothing is negative in any way. It's just not huggy.
Doesn't have the kitsch.
Well, not kitsch. I don't want it to have kitsch, but just kind of a small town village, a little hippy dippy.
You know what, I think that what I'm gonna work on, and I'll keep that comment in mind, Commissioner, is a short narrative for each of these. And I'll be talking about the public trust, the acronym. And I think I might be able
Okay,
to soften it a little.
Okay.
In that introductory narrative.
that sounds good.
Okay,
So you can go a little hippy dippy in that.
I can try and make.
You can give us a little squeeze in there. You can give us a little
Yes.
hug. Okay.
All right, then let's move on to our other document. So you saw this for the first time the other day. I'm not expecting finalization tonight, but you never know. We have a lot of time and so let me walk you through just very briefly what I did and what I didn't do. So a plan has overriding goals, and then it has overriding strategies that, are emblematic of those goals. What this doesn't have, which really gets you to the more tactical implementation level, is what was not included in this project, but those are the objectives and then potentially the tasks. Okay, so, let me give you a good example on the first one as far as infrastructure. Now, I know all of you thoroughly reviewed the spreadsheet that I sent you and you're familiar with all the categories. It was a lot. I know it was a slog, okay? But it really was great info.
Really.
Now, one of the unique categories that came out as an example, and I want to make clear, I'm not bringing this up to advocate or anything else. It's for illustrative purposes only. But one of the things that popped up clearly was a dog park. Now, a dog park can be an objective. Okay, that would be the next level. We want to create a dog park in the village. And then the tasks would be identify a piece of land, secure that land if it's not already in public possession, and develop a plan to, and a design for the park, and identify the funding. Those would all be different tasks. Okay, so this does not include a lot of specifics. Okay, the specifics are that next level, what we'll call the implementation level. All right, so I want to be clear on what this is and is not. Okay, but this gets you very close. And the next step, you already have all the information. It's there. And what I've discussed with the manager is we're kind of queuing up the next manager coming in to be able to
Roadmap.
potentially work on that with you and provide it. And, you know, it's something you could have me do, but you don't have to spend the money. The manager can sit with you in another workshop and go through it. Okay, so you have all the tools, so to speak. So these again are your goals and your strategies. And that's why they're written in what might seem to some of you to be less specificity or opaque or whatnot. They're more generalized by design because they're higher level to get you down to where you ultimately want to be. Okay, any questions on what I just said? Okay.
I just had a question on how do you define number one, number two? And if you can move to the next page that you have.
What do you mean define?
So you have goal number one. Is it because it weights more within?
No, the goal number one is not priority number one.
Got it.
Okay. I could
Just
easily,
list
and if
them.
you want, we can change this to goals A, B, C, and D.
Got it.
Mhm.
Okay, so that there's no confusion at all with the
Yeah.
public. Okay,
Okay,
and
'Cause this is not in priority order.
no, not at all. Although what's
Say that.
interesting, as you know, is that infrastructure collectively by far
And
garnered,
heavy, yeah.
I mean, you were literally like a thousands of points away from 40% of your
Mhm.
total comments
Mm.
about infrastructure.
Mhm.
Okay, and 880 comments. Your next highest category was 300 and something. So overwhelmingly, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if this rose up. But
To Veronica's point, though, these aren't priorities in
these are
order.
not- and-
They're because things within goal number one or goal A, whatever it is, there are things in there that could be of much higher priority than something else in that same list. So it's just a bucket.
Right,
And there might be things in bucket A that are extremely important, something in bucket A that is not nearly as important, but something in bucket D as in dog is, number one on the entire list.
right. So now it's goals A, B, C, and D.
Maybe better off whenever this is shared with the public that it just explicitly say that this is not in any type of priority order.
Okay.
Because, because could someone say goal A is more prioritized than goal B?
Yeah.
Just
Or
say it.
more urgent because. it
Yeah.
comes first.
Yeah.
Because that was one of the first questions I thought too,
Yeah.
is this in priority?
Because.
Hi, everybody. Just real quick, if it would help the overall for the organization, these can just be bullets and sub-bullets instead of saying goal A or whatnot. Because then you're not classifying any type of priority and you're not saying A, B, C, or 1, 2, 3. It can just be like the main bullet
Infrastructure.
being construction and maintain infrastructures around doors, and sub bullets being, you know, what he has listed there, and then same with the other ones going down. So if you use it in a document, then it can just be listed that way. It might help with the confusion. Even if you put the not listed part, people might still read it that way.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Mario. Commissioner, to answer your specific question, I did not want to make any assumptions that more public input on one particular comment automatically translated into the highest priority. One of the reasons that the prioritization of these is up to you, and I told our public audiences what I'm about to tell you, is that you're not only their elected representatives, but you have a higher level of information or knowledge about how the village runs, what the financial capabilities are. And I walk them through some financial numbers to give them examples, but that you're gonna have to balance what you know is possible with what is desirable. Okay, and so that's why I did not list it in the way that you asked about. Did that answer your question, sir? Okay.
I had a same question in terms of the, how do you went through the data? There was a lot. So I just want to understand. So you basically saw an opportunity to grab all that and build these buckets, at least 4 of them, that would include most of what's being discussed.
So
And put it in a context of, okay, this will be our main goal, sort of an umbrella where they kind of fall under. I'm just trying to understand, so why we came up with goal 1, 2, 3, 4. How's that?
So I easily, and what I'm gonna do is, I'm actually gonna pull up the spreadsheet a second, because I think it will be, it will give us some, here. Just give me a sec. Okay. So we had, the maintain status quo, had infrastructure, which had 11 different categories that I created.
Mhm.
Uh,
Can I ask you a question on that?
Sure.
Do you like, some questions are, you know, they have like 2 pieces to it. Do you put them in, so they're not duplicated, so they all
Correct.
fall within only one bucket?
So if someone said that they wanted to
Yes,
see,
for example.
they wanted to see more events, and they wanted to see a dog park, and they wanted to convert to septic to sewer, I added to all 3 of those buckets.
Then you have events, adults, and then there's like family events. So how do you,
I only did that because the input that we got specified
Yeah.
that, and after I saw, so what I did was I put everything as an example. Let me go over to activities. So I started off with just an activities programs section. And then as I saw repetitive comments came in, and I saw that there was a critical mass of something, I then created a subcategory for that. And then started allocating the comments to both columns as new ones came in. So it had to have enough, as I said, critical mass, enough comments coming in for me to create the subcategory. And when you look at adults, I think every single one of those comments is specific about programs and activities for either adults or seniors.
Hmm.
Okay, and I combine those 2.
okay.
All right, so
So your
There-
category here, you have a category and a subcategory, as you're referring.
correct.
Okay.
And the subcategories were based on the specificity
Yeah.
provided by your resident.
Okay.
That's what I based it on.
So here in this document that you have, which are the categories? How do you identify the categories?
So you're saying in the goals and strategies?
Oh, no, the document that you have on screen right now. So you have markets, adult, senior, youth. So are those, that's what's category, what's subcategory?
So if you look, you see where it says
Oh,
activities,
yes.
programs, and then
Yeah.
it says AP?
Got it. So the AP is your activity in progress.
Exactly. Now I have services and now you have S policing, S code enforcement.
That was a little, that was a bit slug through, a little
Okay.
color coding. with it.
So ordinances and other
I
legal matters.
see it.
OOLM. All right. So
Yes, that's, I was missing that. I'm like, there has
Okay.
to be some order.
Right.
You created. Okay, perfect.
and I, listen, this was a slog to put it all together,
I
but,
can imagine.
but
A lot of information.
it was worth it, to get to this place where I think it's more, it's easier for you to visually see, you know, just looking at how many comments you get in each section. What I also did, and I said as a bonus, because, you know, we never talked about it, is there were certain categories where there might have been controversy.
Yeah.
Like here on the screen, I have, commercial property. And a lot of people said, hey, we should add commercial property because it would help us expand the tax base and reduce the burden on us homeowners. But not everyone agreed with that. And you had 19 in favor and 6 against. Okay, as opposed to, the gates and fences, 2 comments over, every single one of those comments where I want, please allow us to put gates or fences on our properties. So there was no disagreement in that area. The
But
dog
when,
park one.
until you start digging down and reading some of them, then you realize that it's not quite so crystal clear because there are people, I think, who think you're not allowed to have any fences at all. And it's front yard fences is really the topic. But going back to, when you go back over to, I was reading through these things, the commercial, allowing commercial thing. There are people that say they want to have small businesses. Well, you're allowed to have small businesses in Biscayne Park. They just don't realize that you get a license, you can have a small business in Biscayne Park. So when you start reading through that, you realize it's not, everything's not quite so cut and dry because a lot of this is,
And to your point, Commissioner, I'm glad you said that, because this section, as an example,
Commercial property, for
no,
example.
so you see there, it goes up to line 29. You subtract 4 because the first 4 lines, okay, and, so, no, that's not a good example.
Oh, yeah, I think on this one, it says residential only, no businesses. And I think the difference is, you know, maybe they don't know that they can have businesses, to your point.
exactly.
It's not a cafe, you
Yeah,
know? it's
exactly.
not a gas
You
station.
can't have a gas station, but you can have, you're running your accounting business out of your house.
Now,
The last meeting, the big one, it came up a couple of times that night.
now, in
I
case,
could tell people were just confused.
in cases where, all right, like here, closing off streets or restricting access. No, that's not a good one either. There were some that there was some ambiguity in what the response was. And in those cases, the number that's here might not necessarily match the total number that is above. So just be aware of that. In some cases, it is. And I'm not finding a good example right now, so I apologize for that.
I guess the point I was making was it's, you can get some sort of bigger themes pretty quickly reading this, and I like the way you organized it. It took me a minute to figure out the subcategories too, but then when you start reading them more closely, you will see that there are some things in there I think people didn't understand what they were asking for, what they were questioning, and they're not aware of what the rules are. So
And as you go
often-
through, you might say, you know what, I don't think that category should be in that column, it should be in the other one.
No.
I don't expect you to agree with all my allocations. And that's why I gave you the raw data, so you could see where all this came from. Because sometimes my allocation was based on the context of the overall comment that was made, which you're not
Yep.
necessarily going to see in the one word
Yeah.
that's attributed
Got
to
it.
that column.
When I when I skim through this, I see a lot of opportunity for us to just, if we could clean up, we could do a kind of a big cleanup just by communicating really well to people about some of these things. We could do some big cleanup in here. It's like, oh, there's a lot of, they think they want something that they're not allowed to have, but we just need to do some educating or that we can't do. So it's kind of like, okay, guys, we have,
It's nice to have those.
have a bucket here that we're gonna have to go set in the corner because we can't do
Oh.
it, you know?
Commissioner, I'm really glad you made that point because it's something I wanted to share with you as an observation. It's clear to me in a number of these categories that there is a lack of clear understanding on some things, and people don't think that they have access to or the ability to do something that they in fact do.
Mhm.
And so I think some of this can be improved overnight just by
Educating.
education. Yes.
Yep.
And so that this is, and that's the word. It's not
It's a
about
wonderful
communication.
thing that came
I
up.
think you, from what I've seen, your communications are good. You know, you've come a long way, but it's a matter of educating in certain areas, you
Mhm,
know. And some of your residents specifically call that out.
mhm.
They want to see more education
heard
on
some
a
of that.
We
variety
don't
of,
know what the
of-
rules are.
right,
essentially, or
exactly.
We don't know that we're not gonna be allowed to put in
Exactly.
gating off or blocking off streets. The county is simply not gonna allow that any longer, so.
Now, just as a, since I'm just going to pull this up because I did want to talk to you about the data overall. And these were, this spreadsheet that I only sent you, I apologize, yesterday, but these were the reasons why people either bought or invested in property here in Biscayne Park. And I think there were 21 different categories, which shows a great diversity. Now, some, like, I think location was by far the biggest. You know, if we go down here, and then you can see trees garnered a lot. This is architecture, housing.
Can you scroll up so we can see the column head?
Yes. Okay. So, but I wanted you to see, I know what they are. That's why I'm just walking you through at the bottom. You can see how far some of these go, meaning how many times people cited these. So, and I'll go to the top after that, Commissioner. The fact that this is a quiet, peaceful area, safety was a big issue for a lot of folks, reputation of your police department, greenery, and vegetation came up a lot, being a family-oriented jurisdiction came up a lot as well. So those were the things. And then, is this, yeah, that's miscellaneous. Okay, so,
Alan, is it okay if I jump in and
yeah, no, please, please.
something
I'm
quickly,
just-
because I love this and I got this and I'm really excited to go through it. And what I will do for myself, and I just don't know if it could be done quickly and help folks here, is in each column, if you just highlight and then sort of A to Z it in each of the columns, because then we'll see like really the repetition happening. Is that making?
Not clear on what you mean by A to
Just
Z.
forward by alphabet, so
Alphabetization.
A to Z.
Do I select all of it like that? Oh, you mean just click on there?
If they use the same word.
Oh, it's there. I'm seeing it again and again, so it's breaking my eye when I'm seeing it separately and then I'm going, oh, I want to count it.
Or-
See this little button right here?
Yes.
Yeah, just select those.
There you go. There you go. Now sort. There you go.
Oh,
It's easier to read.
okay.
75 times
Mhm.
before you move on to the next.
Okay. That's easy.
Nitpicky, I'm sorry, but thank you for.
No, that's easy to do. I'll do that for the final report.
This is-
And after I do it, I'll send it out to you. Okay?
Like a little OCD tick that occurred and I was trying to hold it in and then.
Oh, so
I
since
just couldn't.
we're recording and people might watch this after, I'll go through the categories. So location, the size and sort of seclusion of the neighborhood, that, you know, small. The trees or the tree canopy was a big one. The fact that, this is a bird sanctuary or nature area, architecture and housing. speaks to the sort of the style of homes that you have. And that combines how people felt about the neighborhood or how they felt about their individual home and everything in between. The next one combines this being an oasis, being peaceful and quiet. Lot and house sizes, a lot of folks, as you can see, commented on that. They were really excited about the generous lots. Safety, of course, was a big one. And there were kudos in here for the police department along the way. Family orientation. You know, it's a great place to raise kids. It's very family oriented. And you can see, as a matter of fact, when I'll do the A to Z on that for you. You'll just see how many times people say family oriented, family friendly, family oriented, family friendly. So there we go.
Cool.
So that was important. Various aspects of aesthetics, the look of the village, how the village felt, its character, its vibe, its charm, green space and vegetation, the amenities or the services that you have in the village. Affordability came up quite a few times. And it was interesting. A lot of times it was, I was looking nearby and I couldn't afford it, but you guys were affordable. You'll see that several times. Community, people connection. So it was like, I like the people that live here. I like the neighbors, or I had a connection where I have family members here. My future husband lived here, that kind of stuff. Seeing the community as a good investment, you had a few folks who brought that up. This was an interesting one. A lot of people specifically commented that they thought when they bought or invested, it was low traffic and pedestrian friendly for them. Okay. And a number of them will say, like, here, no traffic in the past. And
They did that on affordability too. It was
Right.
affordable at the time.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
those are old timers. Yeah, that's
So
at the time we bought.
remember, this question
Was
is
it- mhm.
is retrospect.
Why did you come?
It's why did you buy whenever it was? Okay. No HOA or gated community, quite a few, enough people mentioned that I created a category. Again, no commercial. And then enough people said they like the fact that they have their own local government, that they can be involved in and whatnot. And then miscellaneous was just again, some interesting things in here, but not a critical mass enough of any of these that I created a category for them. Okay, and I will also make sure I'll put a note here at the beginning that this is not in any priority order. Okay, so that so going back to your other sheet, which is really, the reason I wanted you to see that first question is, again, to give you context on why people are here. Now we're looking at what they want to see in their community moving forward. And then I took this data and then created the different goals. I could have easily had more goals and not combine them. And if you want to see any of the goals split out, I can do that. Okay, so I've heard a message loud and clear from you to keep it, shorter or more consolidated. So I've been trying to honor that. If you want to go in a different direction when it comes to this particular aspect, fine. Okay, so when we look at the goals and whatnot, infrastructure, because of its overwhelming numbers, is on its own.
Also a big variety of topics.
Yes,
There's
Some
very
kind of
hard
relative.
things in there and soft things in there, and they all fall into the same.
right, but
Really fancy.
right, these are all the subcategories underneath infrastructure. Under provide quality services, this combines services, activities and programs, and traffic. So all of these are under the quality services. And again, if you want any of those broken out into its own goal, we can easily do that. Goal C,
Can we ask questions as we go here?
yeah,
Go back up to B.
yes.
So traffic. Isn't that part of infrastructure, really?
There is an infrastructure element to it. Yes. But it's more about managing your traffic. So there was one of the columns dealt with traffic calming. Technically, traffic calming has an infrastructure component to it.
Mhm.
And then you have an
Goal is about service to residents.
so it's hybrid.
It just, I mean, it doesn't really matter. It's there. That's all I care about.
No, but I'm glad you raised that because as I mentioned in the email to you, the conveyance email, there are other categories, and I think I called out sustainability and resiliency as an example. That as you go through the spreadsheet, you'll find there are two different areas that have sustainability subcategories to them.
Right.
I think services was one, and then it was over in, I think, general miscellaneous. There was another one. But even beyond that, sustainability and resiliency popped up in some of the other subcategories as well, outside of those two. And I put them there because they were more relevant to that particular topic. Okay, all of the traffic is in the traffic categories. But some things didn't lend themselves well. But to your point, traffic has a hybrid component to it, a service and infrastructure.
Look, it doesn't matter. It's there. The services one, the second one there, the first one is events and activities and things. And the second one is services that are provided to the community. I'm guessing you mean things like trash service and those kind of services that we provide.
Those, everything that happens in that building.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it doesn't, when you read that sentence the way it is there, I'm not sure that comes across. I looked at it, I'm like, well, I think he means all of those things, but I don't see that it necessarily says that.
Well, no, that's why it says staff and contractors.
Provide effective, cost-efficient quality service. Yeah, I don't know what kind of services you would describe them as that would make it clear what kind of services you're talking about, but it doesn't necessarily, when you read that, it's like, I don't know what you meant. I knew what you meant, but when I read that as a person from the outside looking in, I'm not certain I would know what that
Okay,
services. Community services, what are they? I don't know. Is there a word for that?
Municipal services. is
Municipal
what they are.
services?
It's our
Municipal services, maybe,
services that were required to provide us. in the supply.
that we function. Yeah, but it's the code department, it's the police, it's the
Trash.
trash pickup, and tree trimming and all of that. Municipal, yeah, there you go. There you go. I think that helps a lot.
okay.
Thank you for the word, bro. Village. That's not the same thing. Municipal, good. Okay, those are the ones on there that kind of jumped out at me. I still don't think traffic really belongs there, but whatever.
Some of it does.
Some of the.
I get it,
traffic
there's
in it is- it doesn't say
Just don't think it's a
to do
service.
one.
Traffic is in the service. But okay.
Mhm.
No, and to your point, I could pull out the traffic calming and legal access restriction
But doesn't this relate to pedestrian traffic and wanting to safely walk your dog and your
But that's
children?
not service to the.
I feel that it is, because certainly we hear about it as something that we'd like us to improve,
not
because we all live here.
No, but what I'm saying is to the commissioner's point, we could add another strategy under infrastructure
Structure.
that just says install appropriate traffic calming devices
Sure.
and, you know, traffic calming and
Well, enforcement. That's fine. leave it.
Okay. Goal C is, again, this, is a combination of some different things. It's your housing section. You had a couple of things in miscellaneous around rules and specific regs that people were interested in. Whether it be the gates and fences, or a few people were interested in regulations regarding lighting, which that came up 3 or 4 times, but not enough that I created a subcategory, but it still came up multiple times.
And so did enforce code. So that's, I'm glad to see that up there.
Yes, exactly. So, and exactly, this is also about code enforcement. That, that came up quite a few times. And as, again, you can see from the spreadsheet. And then D, D captures, your, legal, I'm sorry, your ordinances and other legal matters, other aspects of, in the miscellaneous general one, there was a governance, community subcategory that captures some of this with communication as well. The status quo, the desire to keep what we have, you know, I tried to capture in the last one, you know, balancing the desires to keep our charming village small and eclectic, with pressing financial needs and changing individual tastes. So, you know, it's pulling from different areas, but I'm pretty sure that every single subcategory has a home somewhere within these goals. And if I'm wrong, Commissioner Kennedy will let me know.
I'm just looking, I'm thinking what Veronica Amsler said. A little bit
That was a
ago.
joke. It was a joke, sir.
I'm thinking of what she said, being the second to last one, and wondering if the word education might somehow be worked into this somewhere, because I like the sound of that in terms of when we talk communications, education, I like
Yeah.
that. So I'm wondering if education somehow could find a home down in there. Yeah, in there somewhere.
Yes.
Maybe foster community building through education or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Sort of use that. I like that different.
Yeah.
And foster community building through education,
Right.
Yes, something like that. I
something down in there.
think it's more specific on what we're given at the end of the communication as the objective is to inform and educate and.
I'm hesitating because I don't want to limit fostering community building to just education.
Understood.
Yeah.
Mhm. Increase.
So,
resident
Alan, you're saying
education
this
and
4 goals
engagement?
in essence,
Because village affairs are what?
this 4 goals encapsulate everything that we've seen.
It encapsulates all the input that we receive.
Say that again?
I'm asking this, then we'll have 4 goals where we encapsulate everything and every feedback we receive. It will be okay within this
It'll
4
fit in there
goals.
somewhere is what he's saying. Yeah.
By focusing on this, we're tackling everything that's being
Exactly.
brought out.
All of those comments.
Those that we can tackle.
And so,
Education and engagement. Yeah, that's great because they both
Yeah.
start with E and kind of flows.
You're welcome.
It's nice.
Just had to figure that out a minute. And also I want to be clear that the spreadsheet includes not just the survey data, but all the public comments
Mhm.
that we received, in the public comment session, and we only got 3 emails. But, you know,
But they were long.
They were very long. I forwarded an email, yeah, that I got.
yes, OMG.
I was like, wow.
But
you're happy you only got 3.
Great.
Mayor, Commissioners, if I may. So I just wanted to say that I think this exercise has been really, really great, especially from understanding the perspective of our residents, because we start talking about our needs and the village needs, and we know what those things are immediately. But sometimes we can lose sight of what the rest of the community is looking at or what they feel that they need. And so this really put everything into perspective. I think for the last 2.5 years, we've really been moving in a great direction. And for me, this is a lot of validation of what we've been doing and the road that we've been walking towards, that we continue moving forward. However, I do want to just point that some of this is very lofty when it comes to goals and to check it off saying, okay, we got this done. You know, this isn't, and I say this because I know it's being recorded and I want to make sure I at least publicly state it for my successor. This is not something that they'll be able to tackle and complete in a year. But this is definitely a great document that they can start targeting. They can start, you know, as Paul starts putting the budget together, you know, this is addressing, you know, goal D or goal C or whatever, or this aspect of that goal. And we can start budgeting and thinking of these programs in a way that is now related to a long-term plan that we have, not just yeah, we kind of need this, and so we're going to put it in there, but sometimes that feels a little short-sighted, even though we know that it's a need. But here, this is giving us that for the next, you know, 20, some of these goals might not be accomplished for the next 20, 25 years. So being able to say, hey, this is what we're working towards, and we're doing this program because we're trying to accomplish this goal, and that's what we're working for. I think having it listed out this way is really, really good. And I just want to thank you all for really supporting this initiative, and making sure that we had such an amazing turnout. I remember I told you all I'd be happy with 75 responses. You know, we got statistically significant response, and so that's a big deal. So again, just these are not goals that will be accomplished within the next year or two. These will long last our terms that you all have. But I think it's an amazing opportunity to really keep having a true north as to which direction the village moves towards.
So to add to that, if I might, Commissioner, you were here, and Commissioner and Vice Mayor, you were also here for different meetings to hear me try and level set expectations, at least with the public audiences
made
that
that
we
clear.
had. But I want to be clear that, to the manager's point, the narrative that I'm going to be putting together for the plan will have that type of information in it as well, to again level set expectations. We said to people, we want you to look ahead 20 years, and it might take us 20 years or more to get to where you all want to be. And one of the specific statements I made in front of, I think, two of you, was you have a $3.7 million annual budget, and you have a plan that represents hundreds of millions, if not more, in aspirations. Okay. I mean, when you're looking at septic sewer and the roads and everything else, talking multiple hundreds of millions. Okay. And I said to the audience, how do you balance those two? And that's what your elected representatives are going to do in establishing priorities, is look at what is achievable in the short run, the medium term, the long run, and develop strategies with the incoming manager on how they're going to achieve these different goals and strategies. So, Commissioner, I jumped in. You wanted.
Oh, no, that's quite all right. I was a little confused by what Mario said. Mario, I thought you were going to get all of this done by Thursday of next week. So I would have agreed to this if it weren't all going to get done on your watch. No, I think what we're really doing, guys, is setting up their next manager to run us now, you know, pick it up and run it. So this is really exciting. We have this. I mean, what a great thing for the next manager to walk into. It's like, I didn't take a job at a village wondering what the hell are we going to work on. I came in with a clear direction, a roadmap, like, here we go. The other thing I'm excited about as a commissioner with this all done now is this becomes part of our vernacular. You know, it's not just what we're going to work on, it's how we're going to work on it. And like, I almost want to have this printed and like stuck up here in front of me all the time at meetings, so I can go, I don't see it up there. We're gonna have to kind of move on past this one, but we got to focus on this one. It's checking 3 boxes, so it's gonna make us more productive. And we just need to keep our eye on this now, because we asked people what they wanted and they were really clear, and they came out in big numbers to tell us.
And it speaks, the one thing I realized I forgot to tell you is that this reinforces the conversation you just had earlier about the need for education. Okay, that the residents don't necessarily have clarity on what it takes to accomplish these things. And there's only so much of that can go into the plan. It's also going to have to be information on the website or one-to-one. And I'll tell you a quick anecdote. One of the neighbors that was here came to the first public meeting, 2 of them actually, from 2 different houses. And they spoke about how they didn't want any additional lighting here. And, I happened to speak to the manager about that after the meeting and just asked some questions and understood that some of the lighting that's going to be installed here is dictated by the county, which has requirements about public facilities and parking. And so one of those 2 residents came to the next meeting. And so I pulled her aside and I said, hey, I wanted to follow up. Here's what I found out on that issue. And she was like, oh, I didn't know that. Okay. And, and
A lot of that.
right there, I'm sure there's a lot of it. I encountered that through all my years in government as well.
And that never goes away. You
and
can educate.
It never goes away. And one of the things that I learned
Doesn't mean you
when
don't
I was
know.
in your seat, Mayor, is, and I'm going to show my age here, is that you have to be a broken record in government. Okay. I used to think that you could say something once and it would be out there and everyone would know it. And no, because there are so many different audiences and venues and opportunities to say the same thing and spread that knowledge. Repetition is critically important. And that's the work that you folks do. God bless you. Okay. So, all right, back to our goals and strategies.
So, Alan, is the idea that we kind of check the fact that we're okay with this 4 goals and what's under? What would be the next step?
Yes. So, and actually, before we do that, I just want to bring closure to the data part of it, and particularly with you, Vice Mayor, because during one of our previous discussions, you had asked a number of data related questions. So I want to know, do you or any one of your colleagues have any specific questions about how the data was collected or how I organized it? Do you have any concerns that you'd like, or just you want me to address something publicly on the record so that it's there? I'm looking at you first.
Yeah, no, I actually don't have concerns in the sense of the auditing part of it and the openness of it. I have no concerns on this side. I had questions up to right now about how it's organized and order. Again, I didn't know there were categories and subcategories. I just identify with you. The other part, and I'm sure we'll talk about it, but these are the questions that I have in my head related to the data. It's how it's an Excel. I get it so much, these are the first steps. So digesting the data. Then what will be the next step will be, and part of that education also what we did, because I would love to show, here's what happened. Like, this is what's next. And obviously nobody's going to go through reading data in raw. So how do we put it out there in a way that is helpful? So visually helpful in terms of maybe it's a graph. I was thinking how we put weight to what had been said by categories. Commissioner used the word statistics. That's kind of what I'm hoping to see next. So that was my wondering of the data, nothing related to the safety on how it was done and how the process was done, but more about how do we now layer it in a way that we can showcase it and we can organize it so we can define what comes first.
Okay, so let me go on a slight tangent and then directly answer it. I just want you to.
Yeah, I'd like to hear about the safety of the data. So even though I believe you did it before, I'd go back to that
To the
first
what?
as a first part of your answer of the collection of the data and the safety of the data that you mentioned.
Oh, okay.
I remember there was like an IP tagging, some sort of something to kind of safeguard and.
Right,
So
and-
yeah,
and-
I'd love to hear that, as well.
Okay, so there are unique IP addresses with all of the data that was submitted by the survey. And it's one of the ways that you can see there were, as I said, a couple of duplicate submissions, which were not included in my compilation, but they are still in the raw data. So you can see that. So the raw data is just what it is. And that raw data is being pulled straight off of the SurveyMonkey database. And so it's there and I'm I'm just no, all right, sorry, I was thinking about whether or not it's worth the time to show you, but all of the data. So I'm going to prepare for you an electronic version and a written version. Okay, so the written version will be just kind of boiled down and more along the lines of, I think, where you're headed, Vice Mayor.
Okay.
Okay, the electronic version, you'll be able to click on everything that I have sent to you in full. So your residents will have full access to all the raw data. Every single one of the answers, all the demographic information, it will all be there for anybody in the public to access. As will they have access to how I organize the data so they can look and compare and, bring concerns up to you if they want. So also all the public comments that we collected here during the public meetings. And you saw the pages and pages and notes that I took and I typed all that up. And I have a separate file just for those before I took all those comments and then added them to the spreadsheet. All right, so we have the separate distinct raw data buckets of the 3 emails, the 42, I think, comments that we received during the public meetings, and then the 200 and what I'm saying is 64 comments that were received after duplications in the surveys. Responses, right? Because, and thank you for saying that, because as I told you in the email, there are over 2,200 distinct comments
Yes.
in everything that we received, because people submitted multiple ideas or comments in their submissions.
And when it comes to safety, and I think to your point, Veronica, just an extent on that. So it was collected, it was the IP address, so it cannot be duplicated, correct? So
Mhm.
one person responded one time and that one time was accounted for. So that is.
Well, and there are cases where you might have like a husband and wife using the same computer
Okay,
or 2 partners. And a husband and wife can be same sex. Okay, so, but 2 people in the same household using the same computer.
mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay,
Or husband and husband or wife and wife.
yeah.
20% of your board.
Yeah.
Yes, that's situation.
So,
So I was just,
so-
that data is,
but-
in that sense is, there is a way to track, should anybody ask that this information?
yes, there's a way to track.
Karen?
And then what I did was I looked at where I saw a duplication and I looked at the specific responses to see how different, and unique they were. And in some cases, you'll see that the 2 people, there were certain concepts that they both said, but then they went off in very different directions on other things.
So you saw my response and Dan's response, same IP address. We're able to look at them side by side and realize this is really 2 different.
Correct. Yes. So I
I
did do that. And now I saw in other times, the same IP address, and the response was literally exactly the same. Now, if that was.
Yeah, I'm looking to know what you
and
did
that
with
could have
those.
been 2 people from the same household who said, I'm just going to duplicate exactly what my other person said.
To give it more.
I actually didn't include it twice. if they were exact duplicates. I assume that they were submitting it again because they were worried they didn't submit it correctly the first time.
Okay.
So that's an assumption that's in there.
Okay, because I thought you said that was
I-
included still in the raw data.
No, it is. So that's all in the raw data. So I said for the spreadsheet that I prepared. So the raw data spreadsheet that you have, you'll see, if you look closely enough, you'll find those duplicate.
But there were only two that you pulled out.
I believe it was two. It could have,
I think it was two. You
it was
said.
either two. I remember two distinctly. There might have been a third, but
But when you report this
just-
back to us in terms of the topic of safety, so when you report this back to us, will there be, because we're going to get a full report, is there going to be a paragraph or something?
That's
in
what I
there
was
that
gonna suggest.
Explains
Yeah.
this was done through Survey Monkey and this company
yes,
bonded or licensed and
There's gonna be
we
a
followed their
section.
protocol. Okay,
a whole section on.
like an
process.
appendix in the back about this and,
And we'll talk about how we collected the data.
okay, good,
And how we maintain the integrity of the data.
good.
Yeah.
I think that's important.
I
So
was
that,
gonna suggest the same, because then for context on how was this done, like I came, there were 20 people and they're saying 400, like how is that?
exactly.
You have to have a context for.
Mhm. And listen, I'm going to submit a draft to you. And if you don't think I've detailed enough in it, you'll let me know and then I'll add to it.
Can you
Okay?
put that in an appendix in the addendum in the back or something, an appendix, rather than have it in the report itself? If this is gonna be something that the public's gonna see,
The
nitty gritty stuff in the
the
back.
raw data is going to be in the back,
Good.
but the process is going to be actually up front.
Is it? Okay,
It's not going to, it's going to be no more than a page,
okay. Okay.
really.
No, I love it because
Lovely.
this is the transparency piece of the trust.
Yes,
It's a, we can start making these connections.
exactly.
Right? Great, thank you.
Mhm.
And so moving on to the. you know,
So regarding, no,
Mhm.
I'm sorry, you were,
So then I thought we were done on the safety, but then moving on to the piece of what folks are gonna be getting, because I'm picturing, the mission, the values, I'm picturing, very beautiful assets that kind of can speak to all of this. And there's a PDF that folks can click through. In the presentation of that, the strategic plan, right? The vision, I'm just very much looking forward to how that sort of, how that looks in the end and getting that.
So the visual part of all digesting all this info, how would I?
The
absorb it?
product that we.
In
get.
my
Right.
head automatically, I was thinking the buckets, you put as this goal, but it's like infrastructure. It could be community identity.
I think some graphs would certainly help.
so,
So
Mhm.
something that helps digest all this massive amount of information.
and I can do that to some extent. There's a limit to it just because of the diversity of the data and
The crossover, that's the other thing.
yeah, that too, I'm not going to be able to clearly capture that unless I combine some stuff and then that's going to
But I
raise
could
other
certainly see
questions
that
and
one spreadsheet you
know,
put up there that had the categories. I could certainly see that lends itself to a pie chart if nothing else. That's just kind of the big pieces of the pie, infrastructure, not to break it down in all the activities, whatever, not to break it down in every little slice, but the big picture and then separately pull out each one of those and then do a bar graph that just kind of like now within infrastructure is this much of the pie, but within it, infrastructure, these are all the things we put in the
Easy.
bucket and here they're all end up across. I think that would make people would really like to dig into that.
okay.
The other way I was thinking it about, because if you think about it, people have, they're used to seeing our comp plan, and that's kind of been the Bible. That has been the document. A lot of people were asking me about the strategic plan as to why. We already have this. So there is this confusion as to, okay, so this is narrowing it next to the action points that we need to, like, that's how specific we want to get. So another way of visualizing, so it's easier, folks, instead of adding another layer of information and how we categorize things, this is something I was thinking right before coming here, maybe following the same buckets that currently comp plan has. So transportation, and maybe that's not the right example, but I can't remember you, but it's
The structure,
the
the look and
structure.
feel that we have on the
you can-
comprehensive plan, I think is what she's saying, if we can
and in a way,
feel in our strategic.
this is an
vision
idea,
plan
Well,
would be
a way to do it.
One thing I want to be clear on is that
Let me get it in the meantime.
I'm supposed to give you sort of a a bare bones report.
Mhm.
And then you guys were supposed to add the visual fluff to it.
Okay. Yes.
So.
Okay.
I can do a little of it. But it's really going to be up to you. And then I think you can take it and better align it with your comp plan or whatever else.
I see what you're saying.
Um,
It's a lot. I mean, I think we do need a certain structure that is easier to digest and all these buckets and.
Public
areas that
facing.
came up. Or, you put it as goal A, B, C, and D. Okay, how does that tie into
Mhm.
what already exists in the way as a structure in the comment, which is a very high level, right? So maybe instead of finding a new way to describe the sort of elements of listing them, we can use that structure that exists to say, maybe even take few of those words in the titles, align them and separate them in a way instead of the categories that you created. See if those categories already exist within the comp plan in a way that is easy to identify them.
I'll tell you the concerns I have, Vice Mayor. One is that I already know just because of the difference between a comp plan and strategic plan, that there are going to be categories that
They're not gonna be.
don't overlap at all. So the comp plan will have stuff that this doesn't, and this will have stuff that doesn't.
Yeah.
The other thing is to your point that you made earlier, I wouldn't want to too closely align them and then add to the confusion in the public about what is the difference between a strategic plan and a comp plan. Having a standalone strategic plan that speaks to that. And I'll take a look at the comp plan again and then see if I can put something in the narrative of the strategic plan that better ties the two together without confusing the public, but actually,
Yeah.
educating them about, you've already done a comprehensive plan. This is what that, here's what that does. This is what the strategic plan is
Part of
doing.
your intro. that you
Exactly.
have in a
So let me, all right, I'm reaching my saturation level, so I got to start taking some notes on all this that I'm gonna do.
But it's like, it feels, since we're like layering down this from macro to micro, I mean, to the point of, these examples that people are given as to what they want to see happen. Maybe within the intro that could be addressed, how that they can. And then we're gonna have to tackle somehow that the visual needs to happen. We can. And that would be the next step, I guess, maybe some graphic.
Yeah, because I agree with you 100%, because it's one thing for us to have this now, we start using it and the new manager starts using it, but we now have a responsibility to residents to show them, to report back, and we need to make that something that's really easy for them to digest, and graphics are going to be the way to do that. So I think it really could be, with what Alan's going to give us, it could be like each section turns into some kind of a graph. His, that one chart turns into a pie chart. With whatever copy he gives us, we apply a chart.
There's so many graphs depending on.
And Excel can do them for you. You just put in the numbers. He already gave us at the bottom of many of those columns, 91 responses in favor, 82 responses against, or whatever those numbers are. He tallied for us. You plug them into a spreadsheet and boom, it turns into a chart.
Yeah,
So it just becomes a very easy visual, but people can drill down as much as they want to. And some people can just look at charts and go, oh, wow, that's interesting to know that road safety was really like 2/3 of what they really,
and I also think numbers are important because of the weight. I mean, at the end of the day, it could be that I think, I don't know, traffic is the main concern, but then it's like, okay, Veronica, but it isn't, because we kind of spoke and said, this other one is. So I think weight needs to be part of the documents.
Absolutely.
somehow. So tracking the data with numbers, whether it's one tally for each response you got, or if it's two on a household, you have to identify a way to add a value, value it within
I mean,
the.
it basically is already quantified really nicely. And now we can just turn that into something visual. I mean, a spreadsheet quantifies things for you. Yeah. Yeah. And here are the buckets, here are the 4 goals that we're working on, and here are the things that,
Alan, before we take that step and we try to visualize this is something you're going to be sending that to us for us to consider how to do that, right?
Correct.
Just my only concern, I'm not concerned, something we want to be conscious about is see how it's visualized first and look at it and kind of consume it from a visual perspective,
yeah,
say,
yeah.
does this misrepresent, does it potentially misrepresent the numbers that we're seeing? Because maybe all of these comments don't necessarily fall neatly into one of those buckets.
Mhm.
So just being careful, yeah, being.
That's why we may not be able to be that detailed. It might be
Right,
kind of
right.
like sort of big chunks of it, sort of talking in big numbers. Oh,
I mean,
Yeah.
I
yeah.
see that in most of the community strategic plans that I see.
Mm.
It's definitely not down to the to-do list or
Correct.
tasks,
Yeah.
right? It's definitely an overall thing.
Yeah, I think that's very doable.
So you know what? Let me review this with you.
Now,
So we talked earlier about graphical info on the category response numbers, and whatever else I can figure out to show you. Focusing on data collection and integrity, correlating the comp plan with strategic plan. And then, I made a note about incorporating education into the narrative. You know, like example that I gave, you know, the 100 million versus 3.7. Another interesting one could be that, I mean, by far the number one infrastructure item was roads. Okay, and you could say, well, that's the number one item. We have to prioritize that. But you don't want to do your roads and then have to go back and tear them up because you're putting in sewer or, you know, drainage or whatever. And so there's a relationship that the public also needs to understand. And I'll try and incorporate something like that into the narrative as well.
Alan, is anything on this list that you put up for us to see, does any of that exceed what we contracted you to do for us?
Yeah, but that's okay.
Okay.
Listen, I like you guys.
Say that on record.
No, I like you. I sincerely,
So we don't
I
get the
enjoy-
I always like to be fair. Look.
no, listen.
I don't like when someone's.
I really enjoy working with you as a group. And I've enjoyed this exercise. And I have, you know, my business is growing, which, you know, okay, but it's still not to the point where I don't have the extra time that, you know, and I told you, remember I was on a trip. I just brought my kids up to their grandparents for half the summer. So I have,
No.
Oh, you're good.
I have bandwidth right now.
Time to kill.
I'm
Great
jealous.
Start to your summer.
Yeah.
Okay, so then,
I missed them already.
Of course.
so, we had, at our first, one of these sessions, we talked about having the second one now, so we could hopefully approve vision, mission, and the values, so we could adopt them as early as our meeting, which is a week from tonight. So that was the idea of having this meeting now. And we just basically agreed to them in theory, and you're gonna go mess with some stuff a little bit maybe, but it doesn't sound like very much at all. So guys, are we going to ask for this for vision, mission, and values to be on the agenda for us to adopt a week from tonight?
We're not talking goals now, right? We're talking
No.
the first document. I
Vision, mission, values.
think so.
I'm ready to vote on them.
Commissioners, so on your agenda, there is already an item to accept the final report from Alan. And you'll have an opportunity to have some further discussions on there as well. Once we get the final report, we'll update the backup to it, but there is a resolution already there for you.
Now to clarify, when the manager talks about final report, it's the first draft of the final report. I expect to get a lot of feedback from you on that draft.
And that'll be on a week from tonight as well? The first draft of the final report?
I expect to have that to you this week.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I expected only vision, mission, and the values.
Oh, you mean at the
Just
meeting?
At the meeting, I didn't know that we'd be trying to tackle that a week from tonight. We have such a huge agenda. I'd be happy if we just had that first document on there for us to adopt and then follow up with the full plan later. I don't think we're gonna get through all that.
Is that something we can do on consent? If we've all agreed already here tonight, just that one document.
Get it.
Do we have a specific rush for it to happen on the next meeting? I'm saying because ideally, we have all this, the mission, the vision with the goals, because they're connected to each other. So if we can finished, maybe we put it in the July agenda. I mean, if there is no rush to get it approved in a way. Altogether.
The rush just came from the first retreat that you guys wanted to have something for the
Wanted to get it
June
done.
6th meeting. And have it done, but it's completely up to you all if you want to take it off the agenda and bring it back. And of
No.
course, to the availability of,
long.
of Alan.
It just, I mean,
Cause it's just a log. That's why I was,
Yeah.
I'm thinking about everything that's on
Meeting.
that agenda. It's huge. So if we have to, it's gonna happen then that gets pulled and moved because we don't have time to discuss other things if we don't, for the next agenda.
What,
So,
at a minimum, I'm sorry,
no, that was my point. I just wanted to see,
at a minimum for me, I'd like to get to a point where you're comfortable with this document as well.
The goals?
The goals. And that's what we carved this time out tonight to work on.
this, you
Okay.
mean,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So then kind of in theory here, if we can get through the goals,
we can-
then we can put the goals in that first document.
we did. Didn't we just approve these?
No,
Goals?
no. The goals and the strategies are separate from the vision, mission and values.
Right, but we just did these goals, the ones that we changed from 1 through 4 to A through D. I thought we just approved those too.
Oh, I don't think that was clear to everyone.
Oh, I was clear that
I
I
thought we
had
were
said
going, I
that
thought we were
too.
going back and
Oh,
looking.
it's
at
also
those
like
individually.
reading.
Right. So based on what I heard from some of your colleagues.
Oh, I thought we were done with that. I'm happy with them the way they are. We tinkered a little bit enough that I was happy with them basically when I walked in here.
All right, so then let me look at the rest of you.
I misunderstood. I'm sorry.
No,
I made you take it backwards. I
So,
thought we really did do that.
and again, listen, I'm not trying to create work, but I'm obligated to say, are you comfortable with how it's structured in general?
Mhm.
Is there any particular goal that you feel so strongly about that you want it carved out?
No, I feel like this is perfect, the way that it's laid out right now. It's not in priority order.
Yep.
Because that takes a little more digging and within each goal, we're gonna have different levels of priority, right? Even,
Within
So-
each strategy, yes,
so,
yes. Well,
know,
technically, yeah, within each goal and each strategy, yeah. You're gonna have, and that's gonna be some
Very-
tough discussions later on. When your next manager comes in with your objectives, not, yes. with your
realities of the
objectives.
budget season.
Mhm.
So, but still, we have this to look at, which is,
Yeah.
and work from, right? So I
Hold
am
up.
comfortable with it.
Okay.
The ABCD.
And to the point of 1, 2, 3, 4, A, B, C, D, I think Mario said don't do either and just have them a heading on each one. So there's, because even A through D
Yeah.
looks like a priority. It's like.
It
priority.
does.
Yeah, so I think maybe he's right and we take off all those designations and just do bullet points, 4
like
bullet points
topic, Like by topic.
by topic, yeah. And,
Still gonna have a disclaimer because the fact.
oh
that-
yeah, still have your disclaimer, but, right, but the disclaimer becomes more important when it says 1 through 4 or A through D, so.
The only,
So you
it's what I
bullets.
realize.
You could just put a bullet point, for example,
Could,
provide quality
And-
service to the community and then dashes for offer diversity.
And boldface.
Alan, I'm sorry, guys, just because something just came to mind that I thought might be constructive here. Each one of these goals are based on something different. So one is municipal services, another one is
Mhm.
infrastructure.
Mhm.
If there is an individual word that can be
Exactly.
attributed to it, then these can be our pillars, right? Our 4 pillars. And everything is then structured under that, right? So this budget line item is set to meet the infrastructure pillar, and we can kind of talk in that sense so that it's not really prioritizing anything, but it's just saying, hey, these are the 4 things that are the 4 walls that are going to build, the budget, the building, whatever it is, that kind of metaphor you want to use.
What about 4 pillars of focus?
And that's an
Ooh.
opportunity for the graph itself. Like you can put infrastructure, the 4 literally, that's how I envision it. And then you have summarized, the bullet points under each one of them in one page. Very straightforward,
Yeah, very simple.
very simple, and it is not listed to give the impression of importance or,
Mhm.
time, like what comes first.
I'm not sure if I care for the word pillar. I mean, I like the word pillar, but in this use, I'm not sure about the word pillar. Pillar for the, yeah, I understand.
I like that. It was a nice
Walls.
visual.
All right, so I have infrastructure, regulations and governance. I know regulations is not at all sexy. And I had regulatory, but then I remember being chastised by one of you, I won't say who, to be consistent in nouns and adjectives and whatnot.
Well, look, I took a lot of writing classes in my day and you gotta be parallels.
You just added-
Parallel structure is very important. How about priorities? Priority colon infrastructure, because pillars is this lofty feeling. It's like, like those for values would be great, but these are now we're getting to the to-do list. I like,
What we're gonna call it up there.
how about just priorities at the top instead of goals with strategies? How about just priorities? Village priorities. Priorities. By Biscayne Park, the village. I like the word priority. It makes it sound like now we're gonna do stuff. Now we're done with the flowery language. Now we're gonna do stuff. Enough with the hippy dippy stuff. Now we're gonna actually get to work. Where's the list? We gave you a list. Where's my list?
All right.
But I like that better. I like what you're doing. I like better, a whole lot better. Yeah. Yeah, now nothing looks, it doesn't look weighted to me. And whatever you end up using those 4 keywords, Alan, then it would be really simple to put them in those 4 words in alphabetical order, and then no one can question that it was prioritized in any way.
Okay.
So if it's governance, regulations, infrastructure, and services, just alphabetize those 4 sections that way. He's got it under control.
Thank you, sir.
We'll do this again next week, Art.
We'll see you next week.
Whose birthdays are going to be next Tuesday? Call up a family member. Got to make another friend quick. See you, Art. And then boldface those words, and I think you kind of have it nice and organized. Is anyone in here? Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, see, all of a sudden that feels better, huh? You just want another acronym. Or I won't remember anything.
All right, so, Mayor and Vice Mayor, specific with the goals and strategies document, do you have any particular wording, concerns, anything that you'd like to address?
I don't like the word governance because it is a little, regulations very heavy.
Say this again?
Regulations and governance, I think it was the previous one. I was
Okay.
trying to go.
Regulations, I'm not surprised by, that you're saying that. I don't like it either. You need to come up with another word.
And then it's fine, because you can do the same with the rest, I think it has to do with the flow. I'm just, again, trying to picture what's next after this. So, you are encapsulating everything that we have in the spreadsheets here, and that was checked. So if it's just 4, I'm trying to think why not 5 pop up after so much information? If you were able just to determine there were 4 goals, Yes.
Thank you. I don't know what to do with this one, but so, Vice Mayor, are you on, the Zoom?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so
Good.
look what I'm doing. So I made it good governance instead of governance.
Yeah,
Robust
better.
infrastructure, quality services. Help me out, guys, on the,
Regulation.
yeah.
Um,
Um, You know, we could play on, I could name it community character.
yeah, that,
But it's your height, your setbacks, all that that's zoning. Yeah, technically it does.
yeah, or update
Right,
the
so
zoning.
Update the zoning and related codes. Okay, and then I'll make this community character if you come up with something
Think-
different.
I think that's better and it's, yeah.
Well, I'm a character, so it comes naturally. Okay. Yes, I know, I'm gonna have to change. Yes, I'm gonna have to change it again.
Don't. Maybe it's, listen, maybe it's another language. You don't not even know, okay? Just.
Quality services.
Now, do these goals have a time frame to them? Are we saying this is something that, so is this, what I'm trying to, I guess to say is when we put it in a document, people read it as part of the context that you provide, would it say,
These are your goals over the next 2 decades.
okay,
Next 20 years. The next step. But so let me look at that. It doesn't fit within the classic structure of how a strategic plan is put together. I know, but I will look at it and see if I can find a way to get comfortable with that. But your next step of identifying objectives and tasks is where you can also label them as short, medium, and long term.
yeah,
Okay. You'll identify your low-hanging fruit
yeah.
as short term.
But this ones are within 20 years.
Right.
If you're still reading it 10 years from now, you want this to be true.
Exactly.
And-
It'll all be relevant.
Okay.
You will have accomplished a lot of what's within it, but these overriding statements should still be relevant.
Okay. Yeah.
Well,
I agree. At least to sit down and have a discussion about, what it says. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. A strategic plan is a living document. And so it's subject to change based on the changing priorities of the community. Should be some consistency in there. You shouldn't start a long-term project and then yank it for no good reason. Just because of the whim of, whoever, and that's the important. Well. I think. Right, and I would say that as part of your budget process, the very first thing that you should do is look at this and say, here are the priorities that we have for this year. Try and make that happen within the parameters of the budget. And then your manager will come back and say, I was able to do X, Y, but I couldn't do Z, and here's why. And it could be money or it could just be time. Because it's a multi-year commitment. But you guys will figure that out. Of course. So, community care. Whoops. Sorry about that. The first subparagraph on the
Since it's zoning and.
Yep, it's gone. That's a good catch, man. Doesn't speak well to the floor and good governance, does it? And I don't know if Commissioner Kennedy caught a typo. I had diversity rather than diversify. So I did update that in case you also caught that. Okay. So that was my attempt to address the McMansion. So I could take out the fourth one and add a word. Because what I would suggest then is in the first one, while managing costs and community affordability, I'd say while managing costs and community character in affordability. And just adding the word character there would pretty much address what I was trying to get at with the fourth one, which, as I said, is really the fourth, well, because we received a ton of comments on that. So I was trying to, but no, I get that. But, you know, I'm fine either way. You tell me. As I made clear in my email, this is your document, not mine. You have to be comfortable with it.
Where do you say it's?
Well, so the point and the reason why, just to address what you just said, Commissioner, is the first one, by exploring ways to increase the tax base, which would be also allowing different types of housing, diversify village revenues while managing costs and community character and affordability. Exactly. Maintaining community character and affordability. Great minds thinking. Or elevate. That is close to the board. Elevate.
Mm-hmm.
Affordability. I don't want to jump ahead, but affordability, I've been staring at affordability, and one of the subsequent issues here that talks about maintaining affordability and providing for affordability. I don't know that we can promise that.
Yeah.
Because real estate itself, not the houses so much, but the real estate itself and the fluctuations of the real estate market, there's nothing we can do about it. So. Right, so I do worry about saying, we're gonna promise to everyone here that we're gonna make sure that these houses stay affordable for you, when we can do certain things to try and keep costs down, maybe, or keep tax revenue down, but there's nothing we can do if somebody wants to come down here and pay
Yeah.
1.5 million for this house that sold for 500,000 5 years prior. Right. Right.
It's not affordability.
That's what I was,
Well, so Mayor, just if I might,
yeah. I might be overthinking it, but
no, I don't think you are, but the sense I got from reading the responses is people were more concerned about the tax rate rather than the tax load, even though they're clearly related. Okay? If the assessment of the house goes up, that's in most cases, not all, but in most cases, because of a conscious decision on the part of the property owner to improve their property and thus improve its value. No, I didn't say all cases. I said in most cases, okay? Now, well, but it is and it isn't because of the state caps. You know, your residents are not seeing
Yeah.
the tax impact because of that state 3% annual cap. They're
Mhm.
nowhere near seeing the taxation that reflects the true value of their property. You all know that. You've seen the metrics that Paul and Mario have presented you, okay?
They also understanding that all of that part is responsible for the entire tax bill that they received earlier.
Exactly. And then there's a whole county component, which is, right. So I mean, the other thing, Mayor, that I heard just as a subset is some people being concerned about being forced to make certain improvements to their home. And that there's an affordability issue related to that.
Is that where some of those comments that we were reading, I moved here because it was affordable, not anymore, or we don't want to price out, you know, families.
Or we don't want to do driveways because it was part of the character and now it's costing me a lot of money. Those are two different.
So those are two very different things. What I'm speaking more to the comments that I'm seeing in, there's an element of subjectivity to all of this, that's a very reoccurring theme that I keep hearing. And I understand we're doing the best that we can to objectify it, to make it binary. But some of the comments that I'm reading, again, out of context maybe, sounds almost like they're saying we don't want to price out families. We don't want to price out the people that have lived here. We don't want to make it difficult for people to move in. It struck me as it's getting too expensive to move into Biscayne Park, and people aren't wrong. I mean, these property values are going up, but that's kind of where my comment from the beginning, kind of generated was there is an issue here. There's an element to affordability that we can do nothing about. And I just don't want to overpromise to say we are going to control the affordability of real estate in Biscayne Park when there's a large chunk of it that we can do nothing about. Sorry, go ahead.
No. I hear you loud and clear, and I think when you flesh out your objectives, you can have more specificity on what this strategy is speaking to.
Yep.
Because you're right, you don't control, for the most part, property value. You do to some extent in the infrastructure investments that you make, because that, if you build, they will come type of thing.
Yeah, there are pieces that
Right.
we can.
But by and large, you're really more impacting affordability, tax rate, and other potential assessments that you might impose, or mandated requirements that you're imposing on residents of things that they have to do to their property.
So that's an important distinction to make. And as long as we can implement that and break that down, then this idea of affordability doesn't concern me quite as much.
And there's mentioned twice, right? You have affordability.
Yeah, that's what I was referring to. There was a comment a little bit
Where else
further.
is it?
So you have it on the title and then you have it on the first paragraph, the first paragraph.
Ah, okay.
So, I mean, look, if we can parse that out and make it a little more detailed in the way that Alan is offering, then that's fine. That kind of relieves my concern. I would feel a little bit more comfortable.
Same. I was trying to see the rewording of that, but I agree. I think it,
Okay. Yep, you got it.
yeah.
Quality of life is there's an element of the affordability that
Beautiful.
we can help control
This is
too.
exactly the kind of conversation I wanted to have tonight, so.
Yeah.
Afterlife?
Quality of life.
We have two things. Yes, you're right. We never finalized did you want me to take the last one out?
I'm sorry, can you remind me of Commissioner Oliver, you mentioned that this is generated directly from data. Can you just repeat that again?
Okay,
I
so
I just want to be clear on it.
based on all the 2,200 comments / ideas that were generated, and looking in, and then the spreadsheet that I gave you where I organized them to the best of my meager ability, okay? There were certain things or concepts that kind of rose up. There was a critical mass. And again, this doesn't cover everything, and I gave you the dog park example, because that gets down to more of a level of specificity on a particular objective. There were a lot of comments. The whole first column of that spreadsheet was maintaining the status quo. And these were all the comments from your residents about, I love it the way it is, don't change it. Okay, and character of the community, the look of the community, all that, okay? And so I tried to balance that with the other comments that came through loud and clear about not just regarding affordability, but about, you know, I want to be able, I have a big lot. I want to be able to build a bigger house if I want. Okay. You know, because some of the people that commented are people that have already come in and built these big houses and they like that. There are other people who live here who realize that, you know, there are very few paths out of financial constraint. And one of them is growing the tax base through allowing a lot more of that type of housing. Okay. But to do that is going to impact community character from an aesthetic perspective and from a feel, you know, perspective. There's a better way of saying that, and I apologize.
No, that's fine. So I don't mean to stop you here, but how have we tried to, so then how have we tried to, based on what you said, Mac, how did we try to kind of remove this? We added something to one of the earlier paragraphs that we thought
Very
better
first
encompassed it.
one, I added, maintaining community character and affordability. So the words that were added was the maintaining,
Yeah, okay, I remember. Yeah, yeah.
okay? And so it's addressing it there, the character and affordability, without, with. Don't get hung.
I was just about to change my mind and say, I agree with the change we just made, but if you want to say that, we could,
So
leaving it in there.
Leave that, I might take out the community character part. You know, while managing costs and maintaining, you know, affordability, and take out community character. Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And.
Yeah, if we're gonna leave the last one, then just.
Some of you
take
like
back
the
up.
threes, but the infrastructure section, you're not gonna get down to three. Okay, I already combined some stuff and I think I got it from 11 to 8 or 11 to 7, okay?
You just lump a bunch of them into one and just comma.
So,
Stay.
all right, so we're gonna leave the fourth and then I'm gonna just make it maintaining affordability. Okay, because we took affordability out of statement up top.
And then the next one, where it says work to improve communication, isn't just to improve communications? 'Cause we gotta work to each one.
Hey, everybody, I'm sorry to interrupt once again. I'm gonna have to get off. It is pouring on the road right now and I no longer feel safe on the phone and all that. So I'm going to just hang up, but I'm really, really pleased with all the conversation that has been going on. And Alan, thank you for putting this together and guiding us through this. I really do appreciate it. And I will talk to you all tomorrow.
I'll Mr. Manager, I'll call you tomorrow.
Okay.
As well.
Bye, everybody.
Yes, be safe. Do you have any comments?
Yeah.
Okay. Right?
Balance it against this, yeah. Yeah. Looks good.
I am. Yes. See, to me, Commissioner, to me, community is stronger than sense of community. That's why I used it. Okay.
Mm-mm. I don't think so.
To me, I thought about. Exactly. Right. We don't have one definition of family in Biscayne Park. No, I agree. You're right. Yes. The legal community is going in the other direction, right? Get rid of. Ah,
'Cause I worked with partners that used it and they said, don't touch my commas when you edit it. Like they were like very protective, angry. Like, don't you- They would get angry. Don't touch my commas. I heard it all the time.
but but a comma can change the entire meaning.
Oh, totally.
Actually, that's, by the way, that's reversed. It should be efficient, cost effective. I just caught that mistake. I was tired. I think high quality. So, no. So just to speak to this commissioner, I didn't use a word like superior or exceptional because, and we have used that elsewhere. okay, in our more aspirational state. But you are fiscally constrained. And in certain cases, you simply don't have the resources to back up what you need to provide that level of service. But I think high quality is, you know, a step up, but still reasonable. Yes. By the way, do you want, you had a concern earlier that this wasn't clear with saying ensure that village staff and contractors? Does that give you clarity that we're talking about your employees? Yeah, you specifically had, you felt it wasn't clear who we were talking about. And you asked, we had a discussion around it. No, it was this. Okay. Okay. Yes. So what I'm saying is, another word for legal would be allowable. Because you might decide you want to make it a gated community. Well, you
You
just
just
can't do that.
Yeah.
Okay? You don't have the sole authority on certain roads or most of the roads for that matter. So there might be a different way to say legal access restriction. I could say an access or I could say allowable. Wait, hold, guys, I want to at least say access changes. All right. Exactly. Yeah, but the word accessibility, it's not grammatically, it doesn't fit in. Through enforce, read those three. No, so enforcement and traffic calming measures are both active. Accessibility is not. Access changes this. Just grasshopper is learning from master, so. And you're right, and some of it's signage, you could go one-way pairs in places. You might be able to legally shut a road down. Or restrict the type of turn always by putting in a partial blockage for one lane in one direction. There, but, all right, access.
Access, adaptability, no, access.
You know what? Yeah, let me put in adjustments right now.
Yeah.
How about vehicular access adjustments? To be clearer. No, so. and- And stop signs. And speed limit, by the way. You could change the village speed limit on certain streets. You have the ability to do that.
Yeah,
That's a traffic calming measure for some people.
could be that, could be changing routes, directions. I mean, it could be all sorts of solutions that come out. Mm-hmm.
What about traffic flow adjustment? That give you some clarity?
I like this better than access.
Do I have to hyphenate traffic flow? You want adjustments or changes now that we're saying traffic flow?
Improvements is better, I think. Improvements maybe instead of adjustments. Propose adjustment.
No, and not only that, no, to your point, another person and an improvement to traffic flow is
That
allowing
makes sense.
more cars to
Go
go
through.
fast.
What I'm saying, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
I'm not sure it's an improvement.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I think it will be, I think it would be an overall improvement, but everybody wouldn't view each specific thing that we do as an improvement. That's where you're always gonna make someone unhappy. Well, I like that.
With the word, I could say potential change. Rather than just. It could be and potential changes to traffic flow.
I would just say adjustments. I think it's-
Okay, good. I'm delighted you're happy with that. Okay, robust infrastructure.
Lord, one.
And so I got 11 down to 7.
Okay. At
Okay.
least it's an odd number. Odd numbers make me happy. I understand why indoors is there. I get it. It almost implies like, we won't do the ones that don't endure. Well, of course we wouldn't do the ones that don't.
No,
endure. We're not
what
gonna
I was
plant
trying
things
to
that are ugly either.
No, I'm trying to speak to, the- the- basically, I'm speaking to robust as well. Stuff that's gonna last the test of time.
Sounds like extra stuff.
Okay?
Maintain infrastructure that addresses community needs. That's what it is. We need it.
Oh, you know what? If you, I could use the word robust again and just say construct and maintain robust infrastructure that addresses community needs.
I wouldn't reuse it again.
Okay?
You have robust, yeah, it's right there.
Robust infrastructure. Construct and maintain
Construct-
infrastructure that addresses community needs.
I see where you put it though, because you made the reference of you're not gonna fix the road if in 2 years you're gonna put,
You're gonna tear it back up.
Exactly. So you want to make changes that are thought for on the long term.
Thoughtful, long-term, exactly. But I understand your hesitation on endures.
I'm good either way. The word just jumps out at me. It's kind of clunky there. Because it's, like I said, I'm not gonna plant an ugly flower. I'm not gonna plant rain and other flowers.
What about construct like a long-term vision for infrastructure that addresses community needs? Or have, just put somewhere relative to time. And- True. Yes, it is. And endures does that too.
So listen, I could put in lasting infrastructure, long-lasting infrastructure, stable infrastructure. These are suggestions in places.
It's the that indoors that. Construct and maintain.
Lasting
durable
infrastructure.
Infrastructure, enduring infrastructure, lasting.
Durable is another word.
Enduring.
So I could say durable infrastructure. Durable infrastructure
It's promising. I don't know. Then a
Add-
hurricane comes and
that addresses.
the roads go away. Who do we blame? Oh,
That's speaking to, you get it, okay.
Basically, the first bullet point is basically that we're not actually.
We're gonna talk to other people. We'll figure out what they can do.
No, we're gonna do it, but we have to coordinate.
Do we have to?
Right.
Yeah. The second one, boy, that's kind of.
Now, I wrote that very specifically, explore the feasibility, because I understand this is a huge financial hit. And
The county's not gonna give us a choice. At a certain point, the county is. Yeah, I know. Right. Who's paying for it?
well, no, so,
Becomes
wait,
part of-
wait. You would install the conveyance infrastructure and then connect to a provider. Is the most likely scenario.
It's like we provide, waste and water.
And that's why I didn't write a sanitary sewer system. I wrote sewer service. Because I didn't want to commit you to having to come up with everything.
The explore the feasibility of, I understand we're hedging our bets and kind of keeping ourselves. But the county doesn't want us to explore the feasibility of it. The county's telling us we have to all do.
Yeah.
200,000 homes left in Biscayne Park or in the county, the number 200,000, is that what you heard in your meeting? That need to go and they need to go. One area at a time, one street at a time, one community at a time. It's gotta happen.
Alright, so I could go something like determine the best way.
Maybe that's better, something like that. So it sounds like it's intent, there's intent, but how about develop an implementation strategy for converting? So that's easy, we can do that right now. Our strategy is to ask the federal government to pay for it. That's our strategy. We're done. Next on the list.
Not reimbursement.
To convert septic, to just say to convert septic to sewer.
Alright, so I don't know if you heard, to convert septic to sewer. Alright, but again, the language that I had in earlier was specifically written, so people aren't thinking you're gonna build a sewer plant, a wastewater treatment plant.
Implementation strategy could be $1 million.
Okay, fine,
It could be put it in a bucket, drive it down to the canal and dump it off the bridge.
okay.
You guys okay with that? I think it sounds like it has intent. We're working on the strategy. We're communicating with the county and the federal government, state, and we're trying to figure out our way.
So the next one's a great example, by the way, and I'm gonna go back to the spreadsheet and go over the infrastructure. So under sidewalks, because now I remember this, we had
Good, thank you.
we had 96 responses under sidewalks.
Yeah.
But only 46 of them specifically talked about sidewalks. Others talked about pathways or whatnot. Right, so. And so you still have ultimately less total. There were a few comments that didn't fit neatly into any of these four buckets. But, and that's why I wrote that the way I did, it's because it's more than just about sidewalks. And you had you had people that were concerned about bicycle safety as well. And I find in a lot of jurisdictions, and even back in, I'm dating myself, in the 90s, we had a bicycle advisory committee, and I changed it to a bicycle and pedestrian advisory committee. And you're seeing that more and more because it's really that versus vehicular access.
Right, it's sharing the road.
Yes, it's
And
sharing.
we do have this already in our comp plan. In our comp plan, we have a bike and pedestrian and exercise path, road markings, just painted on the road in a certain path. And there's already a design
Mhm.
and everything as part of our comp plan.
And this also,
One of those things that we could check off and deliver. It's paint. It's one of those things that we could check off and deliver. Really is.
well, you could check off and deliver by just putting down share the road. Not decals, but you could paint that on certain places on the road and raise awareness for cycling. So you had another reason why I worded it this way, and on the spreadsheet, I gave you those different numbers. You had quite a few people, it might be a dozen maybe, who talked about, instead of putting in sidewalks, putting in either a sidewalk or a pathway in the median,
Yeah.
rather than doing in front of houses, because that has less of an impact on the actual properties. Now, other people are very concerned about maintaining pedestrian access in front of properties, which is why there were a bunch of comments about maintaining the landscaping easements,
Mhm.
so that for vehicular visibility perspective, was something I heard loud and clear, that people can't see around the corner when they're turning. And there are places where people have to step out into the road because the vegetation's encroaching. And so these are all. Right, there are people like that, yes. Yes. So there are a number of ideas out there regarding pedestrian amenities. And so that's why the word sidewalk doesn't even appear in. Okay? So,
Determine the best way though, isn't it a little bit on the, like, it's so in the air, like find the way to fix it. We'll find the way. It's just like.
well, you clearly, well, again, you clearly have a constituency that wants to see pedestrian related improvements. But you have choices on how you get there. So that's why I worded it that way, but I'm open to,
Yeah,
yes, and there is a traffic component to it.
it's just, I mean, it has to be there. I just determine the best way. It's, what we're gonna do next, right? But
You know what? I could just say, instead of, because maybe best ways, it sounds a little too soft.
yeah,
We could just say determine how to provide. And just be a little more direct. It's less huggy, but,
Yeah.
you know,
exactly. Then it's very soft.
okay, so there you go. Determine how to. It's a little stronger.
No, we're saying. So, yeah, I was thinking more like it's, I don't know, how about explore the opportunities for pedestrian sector of it?
No, so actually, yeah, one of you, yeah, we could just say provide for the safety of pedestrians and cyclists.
Yes. Yes,
Okay,
Yes. Yes, exactly. Oh, it could be the first step, it could, yeah. Like, maybe, exactly, maybe like things are attainable, we don't necessarily need to put sidewalks all over the place. That's the next step to allow for this, but what's the first step we can do? Yeah.
so the next one's acknowledging your ongoing efforts. But there were, as you saw in the spreadsheet, a whole bunch of folks that brought this up. They're concerned about flooding.
Yeah.
That came up a lot.
Mhm. I knew that. Yeah. Yeah. And clearly is a concern, it clearly was a concern. A lot of people are bringing it up, so it's good that we're gonna have that. Yes. Yes.
Yes,
Just the flashlight. Of course, that's a thing. So it's a balance and yeah.
and you've gotten complaints about it not being kept up.
Yeah.
Yes. Not just dark skies, but it's also, you had comments in there about people who are negatively impacted by their neighbor's security light. Okay. So,
I put cordons like the blockouts because well, yeah.
and then the second part, you know, there, not a single person said, don't move the utilities underground. Okay? Because not all utilities can go underground.
I think all of them, like, I thought all of them could, or no?
Well, no, you can't,
Okay.
you can't put the lights underground. Okay, you can put the lighting, I mean, you can put the wiring for the lights,
Yes.
but the poles, the lights themselves. I'm just, that's one example.
Got it.
Correct. Okay.
Question. Yeah. Yes.
Another example, by the way, is, and there are certain antennas that are now being put up for public Wi-Fi or other things like that.
Yeah.
For communications. Yes, they are. Okay. Move or relocate. Okay. Come on, you're the mayor, do something about it. Have you looked into those, compression? Do you know the science behind that, by the way? It mimics the feeling that they had in the womb.
What, the swaddle? sort of thing?
Yeah, a swaddle or a compression vest or something. It works for like fireworks and lightning.
Mine still shakes with it, yeah. Sounds right there. For a cultural.
So food, social, arts, cultural, music. I looked at it and I went through the categories in my mind, but you tell me if I missed some. I think we have a bucket for everything.
Will be what, social too?
Social, yeah.
Yeah,
Educational, that could be a yoga class, or it could be an actual educational class. It could be a variety of things.
yeah,
It could be a seminar on composting.
yeah.
They are three different things. An activity typically is something that is more active. Hence the word activity, but yes. I okay. It's green spaces that you have around the village. Medians are already mentioned. Um, Yeah, swales, that's the side of your roads. But green spaces and public landscaping areas might be somewhat redundant. Okay, and public green spaces.
That's good. So the village is.
I wish we had a fire going.
Right? That would be sweet. I think that's it.
We're good?
Yeah. You feel good about that?
I feel great. Yes, I do, and I really appreciate your input tonight. You know, and this is the kind of conversation I was hoping we'd have. So, then I have accomplished what I wanted to tonight. I just want to go back and once again address any process questions you might have or concerns, before I start working on the final report.
So, next steps, what would, if you would have to outline them, what would they be?
All right, so next week, you'll approve the two documents, vision, mission values, and the goals and strategies, okay? I'm gonna provide you with a draft final report.
Can I stop you right there? There's something I'm thinking as you're describing it. So are we okay with, approving the goals without having had the people to kind of visualize that, digest that? Yes. 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 Because otherwise, yeah, otherwise it's happened too fast. We just had the feedback, people might be like, wait, did you already have this done before you even heard us? It's kind of wonderful that it happened that way. But I think for people to process and digest, that this was a whole process of meeting, discussing and tweaking, then it goes into the discussion item. I think that's a great idea. And then we can, yes. I agree. Yes. Yeah.
Well, if that's what you're gonna do, I would say that you would also approve, by that point, the final report.
Hopefully we have enough time to have already done that, but I think it helps to promote the fact that this is where we are, we discussed it. Are there concerns? We still have another month to talk to people about it. Yeah. Yeah,
Yep.
I'm okay with that too. Yeah.
No. Thank you for.
So when is our meeting on July? What's the day? Yeah. 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 Yes. And, the questions are gonna come like, okay, but like, what are you gonna do first? Or, I'm concerned that this is put first and then those questions that we had of the process. But then we'll have time to educate a little bit on that process. Sorry, and then I caught you as you were explaining the next step, Alan, and you got to that one.
No, I mean, we already talked about it.
Okay.
It's, I get you the draft document, you review it,
We discussed it in the
discuss
agenda.
it, and if what I'm realizing might be helpful and it, it also wasn't in my proposal scope, but if I come back for an extra meeting in July, what I might be able to do is, presuming it's not gonna be as busy of a meeting for you, is do a presentation to better explain to the public what it is that you're receiving and approving.
I think that would be wonderful.
Yeah.
It would have to be, within the time of the meeting and see how much of discussion we're gonna be having, so you
Right.
can measure the time you're gonna have available, but I think that would be
Well,
wonderful.
I'm hoping there's not too much discussion other than,
It's a presentation.
right,
Yes.
because we've already worked out individual.
No, but I'm thinking about other things we need to discuss within the agenda of July. If it's
Oh,
too
yeah.
lengthy, then you don't have time to go through your explanation of what happened. But I think that would be wonderful. Because then it comes from you, you kind of finalize the process by explaining what was done and you get to, I think that would be good.
What else?
That's it, right?
Okay.
The house, yeah. The parking lot. Well done. That's I think, a creative way to put it within the village context. Yes, yeah. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I'm done. So unless you have anything else for me. I don't think it's one of those big meetings right now, but, okay, great. All right, super. Thank you all.
Thank you, Alan, so much. Thank you.